All right, welcome everybody to our March 5th Legislative Committee meeting of the State Building Code Council. Our chair's not in attendance. Does any of our members in attendance want to volunteer to be chair pro tem for today?
I'm happy to, Dustin.
That would be spectacular. Thank you, Jake.
Without objection from the other SBCC members. Okay, then I will call our meeting to order for March 5th SBCC legislative agenda. First is approving the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as shown?
Let me do a roll call for
Okay.
the council real quick. So,
Okay, very
uh,
good.
Annette, could you run a roll call for me, please?
Yep. Tom Handy, Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Ben O'Mara,
Here.
Roger Haringa,
Here.
Chell Anderson, Angela Hott, and Representative Alex Runnel. So we do have a quorum with the four of you.
Thank you, Annette. Now on to approving the agenda. Could I entertain a motion to approve as shown?
Todd, move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Todd, seconded by Ben to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. First thing on our approved agenda is reviewing and approving minutes from February 26th.
This is Todd. I move to approve. Second.
Okay, moved by Todd, seconded by Ben to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have our legislative updates. Number of bills have been made it through both the chambers and headed to the governor's desk. Dustin, you want to walk through what's happened?
Share real quick. All right, so we have posted today our week 9 bill status report. Before I jump into that one, last Monday was the opposite house fiscal cutoff, which was March 2nd. Coming up this Friday is the opposite house cutoff, so that's the last day for all the bills to get out of there. The budgets and stuff still may be lingering around, but the bills need to be passed out of the opposite house by this Friday. And then signing die is March 12th coming up. So on our high priority bills list, we don't have anything that's moved off of there, but the Kit Homes Bill 5552 has passed and is awaiting delivery to the governors. This one requires a rules for kit homes to be done by March of 2027. So after session, we need to get moving pretty quick on this one. On our medium priority bills, the scissor stairs bill has passed, and it requires a tag for scissor stairs for the 2027 code development cycle. So that'll just be something we create as part of the planning and prep for the 2027 code cycle. Getting into our low priority bills, we have 1345, the detached ADU limits. That one has passed and is awaiting governor signage. And this one, as drafted and passed, does not impact the SBCC, but just in case it did get modified in such a way to impact us, we were keeping a higher eye on it. Look into 5156. This one has passed the Senate and the House, is awaiting delivery to the governor. This one has kind of two requirements for SBCC. Requires rules allowing minimally sized elevators for apartment buildings at maximum of 6 stories and 24 units. And then another one in there is it requires a specialized tag to be created for ongoing evaluation of hoistway, opening protection, and temporary visual emergency communication devices. And that part doesn't have an expiration date, and so it's interpreted to mean each code cycle after that one. The as Senate Bill 6026 has passed, and as passed and drafted, does not have any impact to the SBCC. Look into our monitoring bills. All of these don't have any impact to SBCC. Most of these have passed except for House Bill 2296. That one is still awaiting passage in the Senate. And if it can get there by this Friday, that one we would go into the governor for signing on that one. But all of these, as drafted, have no impact for SBCC, but we're keeping an eye on them just in case, because they touch some subjects close to us. So with that, that's well, not quite the end. There's no dead bills list on this sheet this week because there have been no bills that have dropped off of our active list for in between the two meetings we've had here. So that is my quick legislative update, and happy to hear some comments. I see Todd, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. It's not going to matter, but I don't think on 5156 it passed last night, but was it engrossed and just has to go back for concurrence now? I don't think it's going to get hung up though.
Let me check that one.
It's it's not critical. I just
Yeah, I'm not sure what all will actually have to happen with that one to get it across the line, but anticipate it moving to
yeah.
finality.
And then I'll just share what we talked about yesterday, Dustin. So I happen to be in Olympia all week and working, and that gave a chance for Dustin and Derek and I to meet yesterday on the AG question with the outside of the legislative committee. If you remember when the council asked on an opinion for WABO, but we also did talk about strategies to bring forward for the if you scroll up, Dustin, for the kid home. So I think we can maybe raise that tomorrow on a couple different options we came up with to bring forward to the council to consider. And that's it.
Okay, Roger?
So the kit home, we have to produce something by spring of next year.
Correct.
It would be an addition or something that we would add to the code.
It would be something that if we can get in there, it will, if we can get it done in time, it can be included in the publishing of the codes. But it is something that might not see the benefit of hard copy publishing, but it can get into the online versions real easy.
Okay.
And Roger, I can get a little deeper into it because I had a couple conversations, including with the bill sponsor this week, indirectly with the governor's office, not specifically on this, but we did talk about it. Um, I think maybe Dustin and I we talked about yesterday. It could very well just look like an appendix in the IBC might be the best place for it. And then the question becomes how do we develop that code for the council to consider? But probably more importantly, as I've said on other public meetings, how do we establish the scope first so that we can bring it forward to the council to make a decision on what the best pathway forward is.
And Todd, were you deliberate in saying IBC versus the residential code?
Yeah, I mean, Dustin, weigh in if you want, but this is for manufacturers. It's prefabrication. I'm not saying it's for manufacturers, but it's prefabrication, and I think that doesn't tend to trend towards a prescriptive solution. It really is more of a process consideration and jurisdiction enforcement and so forth. So balancing how you can design, have certification, inspection in the factory, and ultimately tee this up for success with the jurisdiction.
Okay.
So to me, that points more to the IBC.
If I may, Todd, is there an entity that is driving this? And my question becomes, or both the single exit and the multiplex housing, there was a document that we started with that I think WABO put together for both, or the city of Seattle for one and WABO for the other. That was hugely beneficial. And it's kind of like you said, it helped with the scope. Like we kind of understood from that initial pass, at least all the topics that we had to consider in creating those appendices. Is there a starting point, or are we starting from scratch?
Um, the short answer to your question is no. There's no kind of sponsor beyond the Senator Wilson and from the legislature standpoint. That's what we talked about yesterday was I think there could be some options here to bring forward to the council where we have some specialists help draft this, for us since it's very special. There are some manufacturing standards that might help, and that is related to an amendment put forward. I think the IRC tag, maybe correctly hit the pause button on it to say, are these really good enough and are these appropriate for what we're talking about? And this gives us an opportunity on a very specific, small scope, 800 square feet and less, to look at what code language might be most appropriate. And since, as I've shared before, some of this is happening at the national level and the ANSI standard is emerging, I think it's worth asking the question as a state if we can coordinate better with where we think that ANSI standard might go. So to be determined and to be brought forward to the council.
Okay, my other question on, or my question on these is that there was some fiscal notes on this, and Dustin, where we are with the House versus the Senate budget on those.
I don't think that we've seen any updates from those. The Kid Homes bill comes with a fiscal note. We saw some funding in the Senate budget for that, but it wasn't in the House budget. And to my knowledge, the still not worked out, so it's in both budgets yet.
I'm wondering if it'd be worth just an email communication from Tom or Todd just to the House appropriate people in the House budget writers to say that we'd like to see the money that was in the Senate budget in the House budget, just so they're aware of the issue.
Jay, can you say it again? So it's in the Senate budget, but not yet in the House budget?
By my last reading of them, yes.
So you're saying I have to pull my District 3 card?
I don't know who the budget leadership is. Is that one of your
Representative Ormsby is District 3, yes.
Oh, okay. So that'd be that'd be a worthy piece of email to Tim Ormsby on that.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I got sidetracked doing something not very fun. But anyway, did you start?
We
Yes,
did.
Okay.
So let the record show that our chair is here. Tom, we've reviewed the bills and we're just going through questions, and right now in the middle of talking of budget to make sure and the discussion was whether it made sense for you or Todd to send an email to the House budget chair to alert him that the SBCC needs the money that's in the Senate budget to also be in the House budget for Kid Homes.
Okay. So was there anything further than just that statement?
That's what we're discussing.
Okay, no conclusions. Well, it's pretty timely. Todd, do you have connections there?
Yeah, I did make a joke that happens to be my district, the chair, but I mean, but more importantly, I am in Olympia. Maybe I should just go check in and see if I can at least pass a note.
Well, not that I'm trying to shirk my duties, but if you're there, and
yeah,
it might be more effective to do.
Okay, I'm happy to take that on. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we need to take action on, Dustin?
No action. Curious if any of the public might have anything they want to comment on.
Yes, for our agenda, the review allows for public comment. Is there members of the public that want to? Actually, do we have? Let's see what we have here. There. Anybody from the public have any comments?
Chair, if I may, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if someone did want to comment, I see names that I won't call out. If anyone wanted to comment on the Kid Homes, on the standards, I'd please feel free. We'd love some help. Okay.
Seeing no hands. Oh, wait.
Oh, it worked. Thanks,
Go ahead.
Brian.
Sure thing. Brian Emi with ICC. I was just calling. We have had a conversation with Todd about the potential just adoption of the 1200, 1205, 1210 standard offsite construction and how that might actually fulfill the needs of the kid home bill.
Great to hear.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay. Anything else to discuss on these bills? Okay, with that, we are at go back to the agenda. We're at other business. Does anybody have any other business that we need to discuss?
Not for me.
I'm seeing none from council members, and I am seeing nothing from our attendees. So thank you, Todd.
I did.
Please, Tom.
Oh, where you did Todd have something?
No, I was just going to
Oh.
thank Todd for us being able to take advantage of him being in Olympia to pass a note to the budget chair to work on that. And unless anybody had anything else, I was going to adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Was there anything that anybody wanted to bring up with regard to the intent of the single exit stair? And, I know the tag didn't want to take action on that. And, there's probably good reason for that. But is there anything that this committee needs to kind of have more clarity on?
If I may, Chair, I'd be interested in talking about it. And since Roger's here, I think still, right?
Yep, I'm here.
Would it be okay to give a little preview of
Sure.
what happened this week, and then I can raise a question then on the intent?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, I meant for you, Roger, to give a summary of what happened
Roger,
this week,
please.
and then I will raise a question on.
Okay, sure. A summary of what happened. The tag met, was it yesterday or the day before? I forget. And had a very good conversation about the single exit, whether we could. I think you're all aware of the potential change that was discussed at the last council meeting. And I think that there were more concerns with it, I guess. In general, the idea of allowing 6 levels of type 3, which would be allow for the same construction type on all 6 levels of a single exit building. I think that a couple of conclusions were reached. I don't know, I wouldn't say unanimous conclusions, but there was support behind the idea that number one, it felt like a number of people expressed the thought that we went, what we have is a really good first pass. And if we want to consider other changes to this in the future, in future code cycles, it was that's great, but it felt like we've made a pretty big step forward with what we have currently. There was, and then the other big thing I think is the question of allowing 6 levels of type 3 is a bigger question. And a number of code officials felt like allowing that to occur only in the single exit condition wouldn't make sense because it wouldn't be consistent if you were doing it outside of the single exit. So if you're building a building that was that had two exits under the normal code, you could not do it. Whereas in the single exit you could, and that didn't make a lot of sense to a lot of the building officials. So in the end, there was a motion to not include item 21, which is the draft language that Todd had come up with in the single exit proposal. So the tag said keep the proposal as currently presented, and that was the vote at the end of the discussion. So Todd, go ahead. You and I had a conversation yesterday. I have, while I understand, I understand the idea of should you be, I think there's a pretty good argument that some of the changes that are suggested, the enhancements that are suggested in the city of Seattle when they allow 6 stories of type 3 are included in the single exit. So we've already done a whole lot of the enhancements that if you're building in a single exit, you've done what the city of Seattle has asked to allow for 6 stories. However, I also think that it does. There are a lot of questions that come up, and I kind of felt like, and I kind of agree with the feeling that we've done. I think we have a great product. We've made great strides forward. The idea of allowing 6 levels of type 3 is a good conversation to have, but I felt like having it at the next code cycle is appropriate. So, and I know I don't think Todd feels the same way, but that's fine. So is that a good enough summary, Todd?
Oh, that's a good setup. Thank you. But I would add, no, I do think I do and think I and most people think it's a very good product and something to be celebrated. I think I raised the question, and especially in the context of the legislative committee. So thank you, Tom. Is have we as a council, when these kind of situations come up, have we properly defined the design problem with our interpretation of the legislative intent? Because this is one example where this bill was very stripped down and straightforward. It says the council may or must, I think it's may consider 6 stories. And so we took that as the design problem, but we didn't really communicate that to the tag. And so then the tag, communicated back that they didn't feel that was in the scope or in the legislative intent that to consider one construction type for 6 stories. It doesn't specifically say that. I think it's understood that we're trying to find the most cost-effective solution. We're actually held to finding the most cost-effective solution to whatever we're doing in rulemaking. And so in my interpretation, my personal interpretation was we should be pushing as hard as we can to try to find, that solution. And my take is we could, from an engineering standpoint, from a structural engineering standpoint, from the fire engineers I talked to, get to a solution in a small floor plate such as this, where you're pretty limited in the size of the floor plate, and then get to a 6-story solution. Now, the tag disagreed, and that's okay, and that might be where it lands. So the question comes back to, and maybe I'm a little too close to it because I helped heavily inform this year the 2381, which was going for that 6-story, 24 units. That also comes up in the small elevator bill that's moving through 6 stories, 24 units. And I think we don't need to get into it now, but there's a lot of reasons why 6 stories at 65 feet in the ASC 7 means something. There's a lot of cities that are moving development codes around either centers, urban centers or centers, and TOD, trying to revise development code, zoning code up to that 55, 60, 65 feet. So I think it's a valid question, but we as a council never took a position on that. And I don't know what that position would be. I'm just raising the question. We never defined, we never determined what the legislative intent was. So we don't need to solve it today. That was my question to should we in the future or on this one.
Well, it brings up an interesting question, though. If they don't specifically say what the intent is, they just say, go do this. But who knows why or what they're exactly trying to get to. And maybe it's not always possible, and I'll grant that too. But, maybe we do need to be a little bit more thoughtful, as this group or whatever, of if that is well enough defined for us to move forward with rulemaking, or if we need more clarity from them. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Or chair, or I guess maybe what I'm asking is, should we establish council intent for rulemaking within our
Would we
authority?
be off base doing that though? Because we're not writing the legislation.
I guess it's an interpretation of what we think the legislative intent is, in my opinion.
Since the direction from the legislature is to convene a tag, I think we can develop a charter for that particular tag, and any boundaries for that. For scissor stairs, it's wide open. I do think this discussion needs to happen at the beginning of session. This particular bill is signed and on the way to the governor. So, it's good discussion for the future of saying, what is it that we're wanting? I think we've made some progress in saying we've gotten legislators away from putting code in the legislation and delegating to us. And now we're just looking for more boundaries or bookends to decide, okay, what's within that, what's the how can we structure that? Because it is easier, as Roger, you said, when we have a template to work with.
Yes.
Versus doing something from scratch.
If I may, I pulled up and just looked at, and I looked at these two RCWs many times as we pulled the tag together. The multiplex housing proposal, very clearly, item 1 is, the legislature finds that lowering the cost of middle and multiplex housing construction will increase. I mean, that is the reason, that is the legislative intent. It's why they're asking us to do what they want us to do. The single exit has nothing like that. It just says we need to convene a tag for the purpose of recommending modifications and limitations to the IBC that would allow for a single exit stairway to serve multifamily residential structures up to 6 stories above grade plane, period. That's, what for us to imply what that legislative intent would be. I think, yes, I understand that it's, I don't know. I believe that it is in order to reduce cost of construction for residential buildings. However, in my opinion, we have done that. I think if you are building a building now, either you would not be able, the solution that we currently allow, the standard solution is going to be some sort of a podium and then 5 levels of wood or cold formed, probably. The fact that we've allowed people to do that with only 1 stairwell rather than 2 improves the floor plate efficiency. There is more rentable square footage that you're building than non-rentable. So I think that we have allowed an option that provides for reduced costs and more flexibility. So anyway, we can debate that, but just looking at the 2 RCWs that we were tasked to adhere to, the single exit does not say anything from the legislator about what their intent was specifically.
Okay. Todd and Shel.
Yeah, and I won't get into technical merits. I have a couple ideas to bring forward that I think is also respectful to the tag opinion. But in a different bill on the kit homes. That's one where I just in this role proactively offered to meet with the sponsor and kind of talk it through before, to really understand the legislative intent so that I can bring that forward to the council and share that directly. Now, that doesn't mean that's how everyone voted on it, of course. That's just the sponsor's, opinion. But that's where it occurred to me. It's such a fine balance between we're asking for, not to have too many guardrails put in statute so that we can find the best solution in the public process. And in many times the response from the legislature is, well, I thought that's what you do anyway, that you should be in the technical realm solving that problem. So I think we're improving that communication with the legislature without putting too much in statute. But then it goes both ways, right? We need to now take a little bit of responsibility and authority to state clearly what we think the intent is and what the design problem is. So don't have an answer, but thanks for talking about it.
Okay. Chal?
Yeah, I mean the time the legislative committee that we're in is the time to talk about what legislative intent is and make sure that that's part of the bill. Once the bill is passed, then the council needs to make an interpretation on what the legislative intent was. We've had legislators in to talk to us, and they've said, this is what I remember them saying, is if a bill passed with 60 votes, there were 60 different reasons to pass the bill. And so you can't have one legislator or you two or three or four say this is the clear intent of the bill if it's not reflected in the words of the bill. So this is the time, or rather this committee is the time to get things into the bill that we need. And then now that the bill is passed, there's nothing we can do other than interpret it in the best way we can and provide direction to the tags to do what we think it is asking us to do. So I think it's pretty clear what we can and can't do. And I think we can clearly give direction to the tags on our interpretation of the bill. And we clearly can't ask a single legislator what the what the intent of the bill was beyond what is written in the bill. I think we can maybe ask a few questions, but I don't know that we can get a clear single bill intent from a single legislator.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say kind of similar to what Chell said. Again, looking at the two that we just went through, the multiplex and single exit. In the conversations of the multiplex, we did talk about item number one, which is the legislative intent. So urging the legislature to include the legislative intent in the bill is very beneficial. So we are not having to go back after the fact. And so I think that I agree with, I think Jill just said, we should be pushing the legislature to include that in the bill. So it's very clear, rather than having us try to guess and deduce what we think the legislative intent was.
Good food for thought for the future. Okay. Anything else to come before this committee? Seeing none, we've reached the end of our agenda and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for covering for me, Jay.
You bet, Tom. Have a great day.
See ya.